Welcome into TNT Twincast. We appreciate you guys checking out one of our videos. Do us a solid, like, subscribe, and hit us with a comment down below. It's the best way for us to grow our channel. We appreciate you guys so much, and go Noles. Welcome into the TNT Twincast. This is the Garnet and Goal Line podcast. The gang is all here. We got Aaron, Thomas, and I'm Tori. We're going to review the UF game, get into a little bit of the ACC title on Saturday, do a little buy or sell, and then talk a little bit of playoff. But let's start with the UF game. Florida State gets the win 24-15 in the Swamp. A game where you had Tate at quarterback, and you just kind of hoped that he didn't do anything that would kind of throw the game, right? He didn't throw any picks, but he didn't throw any scores. And I think that if we would have seen his stat line and not known what the points turned out to be, you probably think we lose this game. He ends up going 12 of 25 for only 134, 0 picks, but 0 scores. If I only saw that line, I'm thinking Florida State leaves the Swamp with a loss. Aaron, we're going to start with you. Tell us about your thoughts on Florida State getting the win against the Gators on Saturday.
So I was actually driving home from, coming back from visiting family on Thanksgiving, and I was trying to check the score a little bit, here and there when I'd make stops and stuff like that. And, I was seeing some of the commentary and checking in on Facebook and seeing, different things being tossed around, and basically it was all not good. So I was trying to block it out. And I was like, well, I just need to get home. It's a long day. Let me not think about it as best I can. Get home, and I think it's like about the start of the fourth quarter. And by that time, I've seen, okay, we're in the game. We're doing all right. So I ended up being able to watch the last quarter, which if you're going to only catch one quarter out of the game, that was the one to watch as an FSU fan. So I ended up
100%.
going back afterwards and, rewatching the replay and all that kind of stuff. And that game was really, really interesting. I mean, the way it started is the way you would have said, okay, it needs to start any other way than that, right? Like the worst case scenario for going into the Swamp, and what you would, if you were writing up the script and you said, all right, this is how I think it needs to go for FSU to come out with a win. Basically, the exact opposite happened, and it looked like everything was great for Florida outside of them doing the usual, team fall short of an upset thing where they leave points on the field from, missed field goals and stuff like that. So I thought that the second half was just incredible, which I mean, that's what this team's MO is all year is they play great second halves. And you didn't get the second half shutout, but you got really, really close to it. And so as I went back through and watched it, it just, we've had a few of these games where the other team comes out and just holds the ball forever in the first quarter, and they just keep stringing together possessions or lengthening their possessions with third and fourth down conversions, and that's kind of what happened with Florida. And your offense just really didn't get much of a chance to even do anything. And then if the one chance they got, they totally messed it up, which really wasn't on Tate as much as it was on Benson.
Ugh.
But as you watch, like going back and looking at some of that, like our running backs left a number of runs on the field where they just totally missed a hole, or a lineman missed a block, or a tight end missed a block. And there were opportunities for us to look pretty good in the first half, and if we make a few plays, and just didn't. But focusing more on the second half, it was just a gritty, hard fought win. And when you got back down to the end of it, I was so nervous because it felt like we were just one play away for like the last 8 or 9 minutes of the game. It's like we're one play away from just putting this game over the out of reach, and they just kept missing it. So like Keon Coleman, the ball to the end zone doesn't
Ugh.
come down with it. You settle for a field goal, and it's like, I mean, that was your chance. You go up by a touchdown, or well, whatever the difference, like 6 points or whatever it would have been. You're thinking, okay, like this feels good. We're field goal proof, and that kid hadn't been kicking field goals well anyway, so we're all right. Don't get it. Then you need to stop. Defense is phenomenal. Offense gets the ball back, and again, it's like you're thinking we're just one play away, and they have some negative plays or just some things going on, and thankfully Florida and their lack of discipline bailed us out on a few of those. And then you get down to third and three with the handoff to Benson that scores, and that was just such a big like pressure release. We'd put our kid down for bed, so I was across the hall trying not to scream, just
Yeah.
doing silent yells. But man, it felt so good to get that score, put it away, and know, all right, this team is just locked up a 12-0 season, and that's something to hang on to. And we got to make sure that the Gators aren't the team that spoils our season. So that was it. Was I felt really happy for the team. It was
Hmm.
really satisfying, not pretty, but one of the most satisfying wins of the season in my book.
Thomas, tell us your feelings of this game.
So I agree with Aaron. It was definitely a really satisfying win. Um, with all the adversity, Jordan Travis, in the press box watching the game. Florida, they drive the field. It's third and seven, third and eight, and they get the most ridiculous roughing the passer penalty I've ever seen. And they turn that into a touchdown. And then they get a field goal, and then you know Tay he's gotta have a little more awareness than that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like he just can't take that sack in the end zone, give up 2 points. They're up 12-0 in the swamp. Offense has got nothing going. And to Aaron's point, it was like these big long drives. I think the Florida's first drive was like 6 minutes long or something, probably longer than that. But we just weren't able to get anything going offensively. It seemed like all the calls were going their way. And we'd kind of seen this in moments throughout the year where the other team comes out really strong, kind of gives us their best few shots, and then it's kind of up to the team to kind of regroup, slow down, figure out what's going on, and that was kind of what you saw. And I feel like that kind of speaks to the resiliency and the maturity of this team that time and time again, you'll see us kind of get in these situations and overcome them, where teams in the past, over these past, 5, 6, 7 years would have just folded. Um, and it being a rivalry win in the swamp was really great. Um, the personal fouls, the spitting, all that stuff. The guys are gonna be chippy. You're gonna see some rough, some unnecessary roughness or personal fouls. Like some of that's gonna happen, but like you're talking like spitting on people. Like this almost felt like a whole different level, and I think that when you look at this Florida team, maybe it's a lack of discipline. You saw that throughout the second half, where Florida would kind of make enough plays to kind of get the ball back, maybe make a play, and then there would be a roughing the passer or some sort of mental gaffe by the Florida defense that would kind of give us new life. It helps when your running back gets 3 touchdowns. I felt like even though you didn't get the yards that you wanted out of Benson, you still got the 3 touchdowns, which is huge. Um, I felt like he deserved to break the rock. I'm pretty sure he did. But 3 touchdowns, when you win, was it 25-12? 3 touchdowns is a lot of points. Um, you go into the swamp without your starting quarterback and you come in with a win.
Yep.
24-15 or 25 to was it 25-15?
24-15.
24-15. I feel like if you throw, not that this matters, but like you add Jordan Travis to that team, you probably score another 14, 17 points.
I don't think the game is
So it
close
probably
at all if you throw in Jordan.
right. So it probably looks like the route that the college football committee wants to see. But you didn't have him, and just like you said about his stat line, you look at that, you look at Tate's stat line, and you probably think that we lost. Luckily, the running game was able to step up, but you know, he's going to have to play better against Louisville. Hopefully, this is a situation where, as he's playing, as he's starting, he's kind of growing and progressing. You want to see that. You want to see his awareness kind
Mm-hmm.
of go up a notch. He's going to play better defenses, especially if we beat Louisville. You know, so again, got to be happy. Tough win, gritty win. You saw the maturity. You saw the way that they overcome adversity.
Mm-hmm.
They take those 2 shots and then they dig themselves out. I think the defense, I think there were some plays on defense that was just absolute domination. I mean, you
Yeah.
don't want to say this at this point in the season, but there were points where it seemed like Fisk and all these guys just like could not be blocked. So if we're at a moment where this defense is playing its best ball, I think this is the best possible time for the defense to be playing its best. So good win. Congrats to the Noles.
Yeah, so I've got a few notes here, and like kind of like you said, Thomas, like you go into the swamp without your starting quarterback. You just kind of hope that you guys kind of pull out a win, and it was a team win. Tate didn't play the greatest game in the world, but he certainly made some big time throws. Some of the ones that I have here, huge throw on 4th and 3 to Jakai, just
Oh yeah.
a perfect ball on a slant, a great catch too. Jakai, has that thing with the Canes and the Gators where he just kind of like shows up in those games, and he has certainly been a huge part of us beating the Canes and the Gators the last few years. Trey, kind of like you said, Aaron, the first quarter really was a really bad quarter for Trey. Quite a few of those zone runs, he just needs to trust his guys and just cut it right up the middle. You get 6 or 5, that's fine. That's great. And you kind of saw in the third and fourth quarter that, Trey just kind of took what the Gators gave him, and he got some of those 5 and 6 yard runs, and it just really kind of helped Tate kind of settle down, get his bearings and make a few big time throws. He had that the huge throw coming up to the end of the half to a Bell that was just on the money. And if we expect to go where we think this team can, you're going to need to see throws like that from Tate for sure, and for sure before we're down 12-0. He's got to start quick. He's got to have a sense to him. He's got to move. So yeah. And then
Can I
I've
say
got
something though?
yeah, sure.
I would like to say that I don't necessarily think that I mean, we all know Mike Norvell is a fantastic play caller, right? But I feel like with Tate, I feel like he should have been a little quicker with the formations, quicker with the setups, just to get him in a rhythm. It seems like every play they'd wait, I just feel like he could have been more effective if they would have sped him up a little bit.
Yeah, I think that the downside to that is that Trey run in the first drive. If Trey gets anything at all, it's 2nd and 6 or 8 or anything but 2nd and 16. And then it just kind of got worse from there. So I agree with you for sure. But I think that some of those things Mike couldn't have really foreseen. And he just kind of. I thought that there were too many screens for Tate in the beginning of the game. And I thought when you saw Mike say, okay, I'm just going to let you throw the ball down the field. When he let Tate do some of that, I think you kind of saw the player that Tate is. He's been on the team for 4 years. I'm not sure that he's the player that you really have to have the training wheels with. Like, just let him throw it downfield. Like, he can. That's his strength. So I don't really think that you really have to ease him into the game all that much. But kind of going away from Tate, you have on the defensive side of the ball, we'll talk a little bit more about how in the third and fourth quarter that unit was really, really solid. But you saw them give up a lot of explosive runs. And that's something that they cannot do on Saturday if they expect to beat Louisville. Louisville absolutely feeds on the ability to run the ball. So if we expect to come out with an ACC title in that game, we can't allow Gerard Jordan to get started at all. He might be the best player on that team. We'll get into some Louisville stuff, but from like a macro point of view, this defense cannot give up explosive run plays like they gave up to Florida. They gave up 146 yards on the ground. Got to tighten that up. I can't give up that many yards. Tate gets crushed on that. I think it was like a 3rd and 16 or whatever. He slides 5 yards before that mark. He doesn't get crushed. Slides. Gator guy just pats him or whatever. We give the ball to them. They have a chance to win it. But they decided to crush the quarterback 5 yards before he would have gotten the first down, which is just kind of where the Gators are at. I've got on here UF's discipline issues and the spitting, the killing the quarterback. These are things that Florida State did under Willie and maybe year one with Mike, and you're kind of seeing Sunbelt Billy kind of deal with some of the same stuff. So hopefully they grow through that, even though I'm not sure that Billy's going to be the head coach there after 2024, not with the schedule that they have. I don't know if you guys have looked at that.
You
But
can't fire him. Yeah, I was about to say you can't fire him now because what coach is going to want to be here for that?
Well, it's great for us because
exactly.
like what recruit is going to want to sign up to play for him when they know that he's going to get canned. So you got to worry a little bit about what's going on down in Miami, and we didn't get a chance to talk about any of that off camera, but yikes. Anyway, so yeah, kind of like I said, gritty win, huge win. Thomas's point, you go to the swamp without your starting quarterback, and you get a win. It's a huge deal. Finish 12-0. Not very many Florida State teams have done that. Really proud of Mike and proud of this team. They've really dealt with a lot. And this is a really, really mature team. You know, you go down 12-0 in the swamp without your starting quarterback. You're not really running the ball all that well. The crowd is really excited. They're really into the game. Really, all the chips are against the Noles, really, at that time. And right before the half, you see them just take the ball down the field, score. You know you're getting the ball back. I remember when the game went into the half and it was 12-7 UF, I felt pretty good about like where we were at. I was like, okay, like they took UF's best shot and only got 12 points. Like, I feel pretty good about it. If we get the ball coming out of the half, run down the field and score, take the lead, I feel pretty good about where this game is headed. And kind of like what Aaron said, really, once we took that lead, I felt like any time that we could score would really put the game out of reach for UF. They really didn't have a quarterback who could really throw the ball all that well. So you felt pretty good. Quarter. Yeah, and
yeah,
which
right.
is
but that's classic Florida State. They should have told us that he like shattered his arm in like 3 different places and never thought he'd be able to throw a football again.
Right. When he would make those throws for me, I would just think like, okay, guy, like do this the whole game. Like if you can do this for 4 straight quarters, tip the hat, great job. But I certainly didn't believe that he could do that, and Adam Fuller did not as well, because going into the third and fourth quarter, and this is just to kind of finish up my points, they couldn't block us in quarters 3 and 4. Like that unit was insane. Like that, it looked like the 2013 unit. Like just every single play, someone just looked unblocked. You got Fisk, you got Verse, you got Peyton, you got 44, you got 15, you got 4, you got 1. Like it's just too many guys, man.
They got beat so bad, even though offensive linemen recorded a sack.
That Jared Verse sack was absolutely nuts. Like, yeah, Louisville's gonna watch that tape and be like, "Oh my gosh!" All right. So that just kind of finishes up. Did you guys have any more points you wanted to make on the? So I've got Brock Glenn on here. So Tate goes for that run, gets really gets hit, gets hurt, is out of the game. You get Brock Glenn in there. I thought he looked pretty good, right? I mean, like he was only in there for like 4 or 5 plays. Pulled on a zone read, which I really, really liked. I had hoped the whole game that Tate would pull one of them. He did not, and Brock did like his 3rd play of the game. So I continue to like what I see out of Brock Glenn. He's got a good arm. He's a smart player. He's aggressive. He's a competitor. So far, I've really enjoyed what I've seen from him. Just to kind of segue to that, we'll keep these short, but Aaron, do you have any thoughts on Brock Glenn as far as like how he projects going forward? What are your thoughts on him currently on the team?
I don't think we've seen enough out of him since he was injured for a portion of it. You haven't seen enough out of him, I don't think, to really go too crazy
Sure.
with the projections. But the fact that he's moved up to the second string, I mean, obviously with Jordan going down, but the fact that he came in and he was already, moving up the depth chart is a good sign. And I think the biggest thing he has going for him right now is just the fact that he is confident.
Yes.
Because that's a huge part of playing the game at any position, but especially at quarterback. I mean, if you're playing quarterback, and I'd say that's probably part of what we saw with Tate. When he was first playing, when he came in, he basically looked like he was scared to death.
Mm-hmm.
And so for a freshman like Brock Glenn to come in and not look that way is a really good sign. It doesn't mean he's not going to make dumb throws or bad plays or do something that could hurt you. But at least having that confidence in the game is going to go a long way to help you as a young guy go out there and not be overwhelmed by the moment and to kind of keep his head and make some plays. I mean, I guess from what I heard, Alex Atkins had said that he actually checked into that first pass, which
Yep.
considering what we'd heard with Klubnik doing that a couple times at Clemson, and you're thinking that cost you the game. And then in this case, because I remember when Tate went down, I was like, all right, the clock's running, like clock's our friend. And then he comes in and throws an incompletion, and you're like, it's like Florida's got 2 timeouts, make them burn one or something, and then you throw an incompletion, and you're just thinking, man, that might hurt. So part of that again goes into, if he's making the check and that's the right read, that's a really good sign. But also in the moment, it's like stops the clock, and it could potentially, especially since it goes into the chest of the D lineman, if it gets picked or something, that's disastrous. So
Yeah, the play wasn't
there's
there too, so
no,
it's
the confidence is good,
yeah,
but you also are like, okay, let's not maybe don't be too confident.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
But I mean, there's some good signs there for sure.
Yeah, Thomas, thoughts on Brock Glenn and the little time that he got in the game, and just kind of how you project him as a player.
Again, too early to really have any aggressive predictions, but I like his confidence. I like that when he pulled it and ran the ball, I was like, ooh, okay.
Yep.
Um, again, the throw. I mean, come on. We're trying to get Florida to use their timeouts and you throw an incomplete pass, but whatever. We ended up winning, so it's fine. But I'm excited for him. I think if you fast forward, a year or two, and I think it's a bloody battle for if he stays, right? It's a bloody battle between Luke Kromenhoek and Brock Glenn for maybe the starting position, unless of course we get some hotshot transfer. But I like what I see.
Nice. Yeah, I think if it all kind of stays intact with that quarterback room, I think you have to feel pretty good about what you have going into 24. Did you guys have any other points you wanted to make on the UF game before we move on to the ACC title game?
It's not not related to the players on the field, but it was really nice to hear the war chant blasting in
Oh,
the swamp over the
yes.
TV. That was hearing the war
Oh
chant
yeah,
going in the swamp. Oh, that was beautiful.
Yeah, and then the
yeah.
whole
Oh,
Tom Petty thing.
and the fake punt was,
Oof.
if that would have actually stood, I felt like that would have been one of the great plays of the game, as far as like getting, of course, like at a certain point we had the momentum, but like that would have been a huge swing if that counted.
Oh yeah, for sure. I kind of like the call.
I love the call.
Do you? They
Yeah, because
go for that
it's something
that
that they noticed that in film, and so they felt like they could do something against the return team,
fair.
and it worked perfectly.
Yeah.
You know,
And the dang ref threw the flag. And I heard some
It was a
folks.
delay of game, so
Right.
from the
it
original,
was.
Yeah.
which that's something we've had going on this year is we've had a number of like fourth downs or trick plays like that we get like a formation penalty or delay of game. And it's like, man, those are key moments. You can't be getting flags to negate those plays. That's you got to clean that up.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. Well, this Saturday, Florida State is playing in the ACC title game against the Louisville Cardinals. They come into it. I believe they're 10-1. They're 10-2. 10-2. Sorry. Yep. They're only two defeats come at the hands of Pittsburgh. Yuck. And the Wildcats of Kentucky, which I know is a really tough game for that fan base and that staff to lose. I'm not sure how the emotions will swing there if they go into the ACC title like really ready to go, or if they feel a little bit let down that they had such a great year. It would have been similar if Florida State would have dropped their game to the Gators. We would be feeling pretty bad, and I think that kind of works the same for them. So yeah, they come into it 10-2. Had a great year. Jeff Brom's first year, he played quarterback at Louisville. Their fan base has been clamoring for him to come home for a while, and he has certainly had a really, really great year. I absolutely hate Louisville. I hate their fans. I hate their beat writers. They drive me nuts. But I don't think we're going to be in the ACC too much more, so I don't think it really matters too much. But so I'm excited for Jeff Brom. Y'all will kind of see it if you watch any of his pregame or postgame stuff. Really, really great coach, really quick guy. Players love to play for him. Has just done really well. So as far as Louisville goes, some of the players to know, they have Purdue quarterback transfer Jack Plummer. He's okay, 6'5", 215. He makes plays with his legs a little bit, but you're not going to see really quarterback run plays, like called quarterback runs. But he can make you pay for sure. Pretty big arm, but he will throw picks. And I think that's an area that Florida State can exploit for sure. You've got the running back, Jawar Jordan. He's had an incredible year. Dinged up a little bit here and there. Is at 1,076 yards, so he did cross that mark. Good for him. And then you've got the transfer, Jamari Thrash. He is a really, really explosive player. He's been dinged up a little bit as well. He kind of reminds me a little bit, if you guys recall, Zay Flowers. He played at BC. He was just the kind of guy where whenever he got the ball in his hands, like you just kind of held your breath because everybody else seemed to be slowing down. And he's just a really, really explosive player. The key here for me, guys, is that Florida State is going to have to stop the run. Louisville feeds on running the ball, and if Florida State can contain the running game and contain Jawar Jordan, I think they have a really, really good chance to win, because if they force Jack Plummer to throw it, he will throw it to Florida State. But Thomas, we will start with you. What are some of the keys to the ACC title game? How do you expect Florida State to rack up points in this game? Of course, you'll see Tate as your starting quarterback again. How do you see this game playing out?
So, with Tate in the game, I feel like this is another moment where their running game has to really step up. If we are going to make a game plan around throwing the ball a bunch, you got to get Key on the ball. I think he had like one catch last week. You just can't have that. He's got to be able to make plays. So I say work him into the game plan. Try to lean on your running game. But kind of to your point, way, way back, just let Tate force the ball downfield. I don't really like the screen game with him either. Defense, this is their moment, like if they stop the running game, I feel like that puts us in a really great position for this game.
They can
I feel
dominate
like
this game for sure.
yeah, if the defense can play wide open, I think that'll be the key to this. I think just like you talked about with Jake Plummer throwing picks, I think if we get more than one turnover, I definitely feel like we win this game.
Yeah.
Because I don't know exactly Louisville's offense as far as like explosiveness and like national stats, but like I feel like if we score 24 and the defense shows up in a big way, like I feel like that's all we would need to win this game. And if you can get that out of your running game, and you can get Keon the ball, of course you got Johnny, you got playmakers everywhere, but like Keon, he needs to get the ball. He's your first round draft pick guy, so he's got to be able to get the ball and make plays. So yeah, it's really just like if I'm breaking down like my three key points of the game, it's like defense wins championships, get Keon the ball, don't turn the ball over. If you do those three things, I think you win this game.
I think those three things are great. Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I think turnovers would be a huge deal here. I think if Florida State is to get more than one, I think that you're for sure seeing a scenario where Mike gets to lift the ACC title at the end of the game. So, Aaron, what about you? How do you feel this game ends up playing out? What are some keys? Yeah, what's up?
I've one of the things I've been doing throughout the years, kind of checking weather in some games,
Yeah.
just to see, especially like the Pittsburgh game. You're thinking, okay, it's going to be November in Pittsburgh. What's going to happen? And we've actually done very well with the weather. It's worked out pretty nicely all year. Um, it looks like there's a chance for it to be wet on Saturday. It seemed like it's going to be a little warmer maybe, so you don't have to worry about like sleet or some of that stuff we've had at ACC championship games in the past. So that's something.
Oh, it
But
doesn't
you do,
snow in Charlotte, my guy.
yeah. But you gotta be worried, I guess, a little bit about is it going to be a really slippery field or not? I mean, ordinarily I'd say you definitely don't want a slippery field or anything like that because you want our advantage with athletes. But given how banged up we are, I don't know if that'll be as big of a deal. But the issue we would end up having in a scenario like that is our run game really has been struggling. So if you're in a position where you can't throw the ball,
Yeah.
that's going to make it that much harder. So hopefully it won't be too bad. But when I looked at, I mean, Thomas, I think hit on some of the big keys as far as what's going to need to happen, and you look at how well our defensive line is playing, and um, I think that's the point where you really can take over the game because those guys, I mean, especially the way they finished against UF. Like if you can get, obviously you're not going to be getting that kind of play throughout the entire game, but if you can get that sort of level of dominance on the defensive line, you're going to be in a good position to be able to come out with a win because it'll allow you an opportunity for the offense to have some, hiccups and things and kind of get themselves rolling, and they don't need to come out and play like a fantastic game. So I think that's going to be a big part of it. One of the interesting things, though, is to note how differently Louisville and FSU play this season.
Mm-hmm.
FSU comes out slow. We routinely fall behind. I mean, we've been behind at half. It was LSU, Clemson, Florida. I guess it was Miami. We were tied. I think we
Yep.
weren't, and but then we fell behind like immediately coming out of the second half. So like we've been behind in some of the bigger games this season. Duke, we were trailing. So that's something the team is used to,
Mm-hmm.
which I guess is a good thing that they are accustomed to fighting out of those holes. But on the other side of it, Louisville is a team that seems to come out fast and then maybe kind of hang on to some degree,
Yep.
because their first quarters are complete dominance. I remember the
Lightning.
stat
Yep.
was up until the Miami game, the stat was something like 76-7 that they had outscored their opponents in the first
Wow.
quarter. So, and it's been similar since then. It hadn't changed a whole lot from their last couple games. So, my thing is knowing how well we play in the second half and the adjustments we make, and then looking at kind of how Louisville tends to start fast and then maybe struggle to hang on in some situations. I think the big test is going to be in the first quarter. Can you keep it to a one possession game? Like, don't let Louisville get out to 14-0 or some kind of really quick start. If you can keep it 7-3, 7-0, something like that, and then halftime it's just close. I trust our team to come out in the second half and win. Um, it's going to be a battle, I think, and I think it's going to be a tight scoring game, barring turnover stuff. But I just trust the team and the way they play and the grit they play with, and to know if you're close, you don't have to be ahead at halftime. But if you are within a possession at halftime, like if I'm Louisville, I'm worried. Just like if I'm any team and I first half is close, I'm thinking, oh no, because this team is going to come out in the second half and they're going to assert themselves, and it's going to be pretty scary, hanging on for dear life if you're the opponent. So I definitely think the defensive line is going to be a key here. And then, our safeties and those guys coming up and the run fits and being able, if Akeem Dent played great in the last game with his tackles in open field, we're going to need our linebackers and DBs to make tackles in the open field and be able to, you know, carry out their responsibility and not whiff on those. That's going to be a big deal. And then on offense, again, you've got to find a way to get the run going. I mean, we're not going to be a team that's just going to go 5-5-5 down the field. That's not in this team's mo. But you've got to be able to get, when you get those looks that you need, running backs are going to have to hit the hole and make the most of it. They can't be totally missing a lane and running into another defender somewhere. Like you can't miss those opportunities. So that, along with Tate, just being able to make some key throws. He doesn't have to go out there and go 21 for 25 for 275 or something, but if he can hit just some of those key throws, like he did, the fourth downs, some of those third downs to Johnny, you just need enough passes to be able to extend some drives and push the ball down the field, a few big plays here and there. If we do some of those things, I like where this team can go, and I think we can pull it out. I don't think it'll be easy. We'll be wringing our hands a little bit like we have been for the last several games, but I think they can get it done.
Yeah, so I think that Florida State, from a roster standpoint, will match up pretty well against Louisville. Like I've said before, Louisville really feeds on the running game, and I think that the D line on this Florida State team has really hit its stride. And in the Florida game, they were very, very good. And I think that they'll be good here too. I think Louisville's O line is a little bit better than Florida's, but I'm not sure it's going to matter. I think that Florida State's key will be to stop the running game and to put pressure on Jack Plummer, force him to make throws. We've seen him throw the ball to the other team really all year, and I think if Florida State can put pressure on him and squeeze down the running game, I think they have a great shot to win. I think for Tate, the strategy will be very similar to the UFF game. Just don't throw away the game. Like don't make one of those key picks in the fourth quarter that really swings the game in Louisville's direction. Try to make those key third and fourth down throws. Involve Keon, like Thomas said. He's one of the better players on the team, and he can't have one catch and a half like he had, against UF. He needs to be get that guy the ball in a lot of ways, because he can really make some plays for you. I just think that Florida State it's a tough game, because as Florida State fans, we just really want, this is the game where we're like, okay, you got to win. It could be by 1 point. Like it doesn't really matter. Just get the win. And I think Florida State can do that for sure. You just got to get solid quarterback play. Safeties need to play well. There's going to be a lot of eye candy. They're going to try to get Florida State flowing in one direction. And I just know the way that Jeff Brom teams play really, really well when there's a talent gap. If you look at his past at Purdue, he routinely upset teams that Purdue had no business beating at all. It was just kind of what he did. So you kind of hope that doesn't turn out to be the case on Saturday in the ACC title game. So let's go ahead and get into our predictions for this game. I will go ahead and start off, and then I'll swing it to Thomas. I think Florida State, this is a game for me where my pessimistic fan in me thinks that we're going to drop this game, that we're going to lose. And it's going to be a really tough pill to swallow. But because of the makeup of this team, the way that they have the maturity to go down 12-0 in the Swamp and get the win, the way that they have the maturity to go down 13-0 against Northern Alabama when your star quarterback goes down, and turn that game into a rout. like the way that they go down against LSU and turn that game into a blowout. Like this team has proven time and time again that you have to play 4 quarters because we are going to play all 4 quarters. And I think Florida State will pull out the win. I think it'll be a really tough watch for us. I think that you're going to see some scary moments in the game. I think Louisville will lead at points in this game, but I've got Florida State pulling out the win 30-24. Thomas, I'm going to swing it to you. What is your prediction for the ACC title game on Saturday?
So mine's going to be pretty quick. I'm going to say Florida State wins this game 27-17, but it's 24-17 late. I'm talking super late. And we get a field goal from Fitzpatrick late. That gives us the 10-point lead.
Nice. I love it. Aaron, what you got, bud?
As I was kind of juggling back in my mind what I thought I might want to pick, Tori, your your pick was almost identical to what I had. You know, I want to believe that the offense is going to do better, not because I mean Louisville's defense plays better than Florida's does on the by the metrics and everything, but not being in the swamp, I think is going to be a big difference. You're not going to have the environment issue in terms of being on a road game scenario, and I think that'll help. I also, Louisville has given up. They've shown a tendency to give up non-offensive touchdowns. Special teams, defensive touchdowns, and you see how our coaching staff is really good about picking out special teams opportunities. So I think we can get to 30, and it may not require our offense to, carry that load 100%. All the way there. So I'm going to go with 30-23.
30-23. All right. All right. Well, that would mean that Florida State would be going, you would hope, would be going into the playoffs. They are currently ranked number 4. Based on some other games, those things could change. We are going to get into a little bit of playoff talk, but I wanted to do a buy or sell segment with you guys. These are kind of macro about Florida State in 2024. So I'm kind of excited to see where you guys land on these. There's just 3 of them. We'll blaze through them really quick. So question 1 is buy or sell. Tate is your starting quarterback in 2024. Thomas, we'll start with you. Buy or sell?
Sell.
Sell.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I like the guy. I don't know. He freaks me out with the awareness. I mean, who knows? He might take a huge jump between now and next season, maybe. But I just don't think that we're like. I feel like with him a quarterback, we're like an 8-win team next year. If maybe Brock Glenn grows up or we get somebody in the transfer portal, I feel like that pushes us back to like 9 or 10. So if you want to keep the momentum and keep the recruiting momentum going and all that stuff, I just don't think he can be the guy next year, unfortunately.
Got it. Aaron, what about you? Buy or sell on Tate being your quarterback in 2024?
Man, that's a tough one. I'll say buy that he's the starter at the beginning of the season.
Ooh,
I don't know if I'll buy that
okay.
he'll be the starter all the way through the season. I'll go that game 1, I'll say, he'll be the starter for that one.
Got it. All right. So question number 2, buy or sell. Adam Fuller is your DC in 2024. Certainly has had a huge finish to the year. His name has come up for some jobs. Do you think he stays at Florida State, or do you guys think that he ends up taking a head coaching job somewhere? I'm going to buy this one here. I think he does stay, and I think he continues to do a really good job with your defensive unit in 2024. I actually forgot to say if I was going to buy or sell Tate as your quarterback in 2024, and I am going to sell that all day long. I like the kid, but I think that you're going to get a transfer portal quarterback to bridge the gap. And even if Tate does start, I'm kind of with Aaron there. I don't think he'll start the entire year. So Aaron, I will swing that to you. Is Adam Fuller Florida State's DC in 2024?
I'm gonna buy it because I think he doesn't need to just go off and take any head coaching job. FSU defensive coordinator is a position you can sit on and build up your resume and wait for a better offer. So I
Yep.
think I think he'll hold out for a better position.
Got it. Thomas, what about you?
I'm the same. I don't. I think that if he is going to leave, I think it might be a couple years down the road. Him and Mike Norvell, they have this connection. They've
Yep.
spent a lot of years together. So I think that's still strong, and I think he's still got some things he needs to learn from Mike Norvell. So if it does happen, I don't think it's going to be like. Ask me again in 2024 about 2025.
Got it. Got it. Okay, so the final buy or sell for today's Garnet and Goal Line. 9 wins in 2024. Buy or sell. Aaron, we'll start with you.
So I'm trying to remember our big games. So we've got North Carolina, we have Notre Dame at Notre Dame,
You
and that
have
one's in
Georgia Tech in Ireland for your
Yeah.
first game of the year.
Yep. And we'll have Clemson, Miami, and Florida. I'm gonna sell.
Are you?
Think.
Oh,
I,
man.
I don't know. It's so hard without knowing the quarterback makeup.
Yeah.
We're losing so many guys.
So under 9
Mm,
wins is why you're selling. You
Yeah,
don't think we'll have
I don't
more
know.
than 9?
Now that I say it, I'm thinking 8-4.
Yeah.
Nah, I'll buy.
Yeah.
That's a good number though because there's not it. You could easily go one way or the other at 9. That's so I'll buy that we're 9-3 at least.
All right, Thomas, what about you? 9 wins in 2024. Are you buying or selling?
I'm buying.
Yeah.
But I think that if kind of going back to the first one, if we kick off the season in Ireland against Georgia Tech and Tate Rodemaker's our quarterback, I'd say that he doesn't end up, and I'm not trying to trash the kid, right? But like at the end of the year, he isn't the starting quarterback, and that is kind of how we get to those 9 or 10 wins. Maybe not 10 wins, but 9 wins.
For
You know,
sure. Yeah. Yeah. I'm buying that all day long because of how much this team will lose. You lose your star quarterback. You lose really your linebackers. You lose Deloach. You lose Bethune. You lose Verse. You lose Lovett. I mean, it's a lot. Like this team will lose a lot in 2024, and I mean players, not games. So, if you're telling me that we win 9 games with a chance to win 10 in a bowl, I'm not sure if that will change y'all's mind or not. But if 9 wins is where we're at, I am for sure buying that because of how much this team will lose. Okay, that was really fun. So let's go ahead and get into some playoff talk. So the new playoff rankings came out yesterday. You have Georgia at 1, Michigan at 2, Washington at 3, and Florida State at 4. I feel pretty good about that. There are some scenarios that I think could really help Florida State. I think that my ideal scenario is Washington loses to Oregon, which puts us up to 3. This is assuming we win on Saturday, right? So puts us to 3. Michigan at 2, Georgia at 1, and Oregon at 4. So that's my dream scenario because I think that we project more competitive against a team that really hasn't had to do a lot on the entire year. They have some really talented backs, and they've got a quarterback that's kind of like the game manager type. I just think that team is they match up poorly against where Florida State is really, really good. So yeah, Thomas, we'll swing it to you. What is your dream playoff scenario? How do you feel that the playoff rankings are as they currently stand? And if Florida State was to finish and play any of those teams, which would you prefer them play?
So my dream scenario, right, is Georgia wins. Georgia holds serve at number 1. Michigan at 2. Oregon beats Washington. So Florida State moves to 3, and then you get Oregon at 4. But what you could see is, you could see some shystiness by the committee and say that, maybe Oregon is more impressive than Florida State in the ACC champion or in their championship game. And since Florida State is getting in anyway, then the committee can kind of just say, whatever, they're still getting into the playoffs. Who cares that a one-loss team is ahead of them? Kind of like in 2024. Even though I think they ended up moving us to 3 and Oregon was 2. But anyway, for me, it's all about moving from that 4th spot to that 3rd spot. Because just like you said, I feel like we match up a lot better with Michigan than maybe Georgia. And I don't think there's a single team in the country except maybe Alabama for some reason that wants to play Georgia in the playoffs. So I don't think anybody really is really interested in that 4th spot. And I can also see the committee, not really the committee, just kind of us ending up at 4, being the sacrificial lamb. You didn't look great at the back end of the season, but you got your playoff spot. Now go play Georgia. So again, I would much rather play Michigan and see how that goes. Um,
I agree.
that's kind of where I'm at. But of course, we've also seen all these, chaos scenarios where everybody loses, and then the top 4, you have like Georgia at 4, Texas, Bama, Oregon all get in. So who knows what's going to happen? But I know one thing is I don't want to be losing the ACC championship game.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Please, please, please.
Right. Aaron, what about you, buddy? What is your playoff forecast scenario look like?
I mean, as far as what I'd want, I'm on the same page with y'all. As if you're going to get any of the projected teams, Michigan's probably the one to get. If there was a way for us to face Washington somehow, that would be doable because their defense is weaker than the other teams. So if there was some way to play Washington, I guess I'd take that. But I don't think there's really a scenario that's going to happen that wouldn't involve some sort of weird, unlikely to happen chaos. Um, the thing for me at this point is I think we can at least hang with and play a respectable game against some of these teams based on our defense. And my hope would be that given how long you have, a month that you have to get healthy, maybe all these linemen and these receivers that haven't seen the field in like 3 or 4 weeks get healthy, and by then you're still missing Travis, but you've got everyone else back right. Jaheim Bell, all these guys are back healthy, and maybe you can, Mike can cook something up on offense to get you enough. And I think a team like Michigan, you could feasibly keep the game close enough that a couple of plays here or there that might be unexpected could make the difference. But with a team like Georgia, that's probably not going to happen. So, but I do reject the idea of people are saying FSU is the next TCU, which I mean TCU did beat Michigan, so
They won a playoff game.
like they
That's
won a
what
playoff game.
that's what I don't understand
So
about that whole narrative.
clearly they deserve to be there. But yes, the game against Georgia was terrible. But FSU actually plays defense and wouldn't be getting beat like that. They may not be all that competitive against Georgia, but they wouldn't be losing in an embarrassing fashion like that. So
Right.
I think Michigan's the team you want. Plus, if I could draw it up, I would love to be the team that ends Harbaugh's season. That would be kind of entertaining.
Oh, no. Yeah.
With those.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
So I think an interesting data point with the playoff scenario for Florida State is that you do get Daryl Jackson, the Miami defensive line transfer. You would get him in those games. And I think that kind of farther solidifies my opinion that Michigan is really the team you want to play because they're your more like traditional pro style. They're going to get the running game going, then they're going to get the play action pass. And I think we have the dogs up front to really keep most teams from running the ball. And I think if you put Daryl Jackson on that unit that's already really, really solid, as we saw against UF and as we've really seen throughout the year, you have to be really excited about kind of what that unit could do in the playoffs if they were to get just a little bit of luck and to find themselves in that 3 spot playing against One more factor that I think could go against the Noles as far as going to that 3 spot is 3 and 2 will play in the Rose Bowl, 4-1 will play in the Sugar Bowl, which is in Atlanta. So they could take geography into account here. Which do you want a bigger home crowd? Because Florida State would travel, I would assume, really well for that game. When for the Rose Bowl, maybe not, right? I don't care about any of that. I don't want to play Georgia at all. Like, don't care. Send me to California. That's where I want to play. Was there anything else anybody wanted to get to before we finished up tonight's show? Cool. All right. Well, this has been a blast. Really enjoyed it. Appreciate you guys sitting down and talking Florida State playoff and all of the other stuff that we got to today. This has been your newest Garnet and Goal Line podcast. We appreciate you guys. And you guys have a great night, and go Noles.